Welcome to the Nate and Dorin podcast. We are professional videographers in Vancouver, Canada, and we are here to talk about relevant topics within the video and media industry. I'm Nate, and I run Nate Dixon Media.
And I'm Dorin, the videographer, solo entrepreneur offering video production services. And today we're going to talk about how COVID has impacted our lives, both professionally and personally. And in general, we'll talk about how family and work, how we balance those out. And COVID ties into that. So our two main topics are going to be COVID and family work-life balance. So my first question for you, Nate, is how did COVID affect you when it started? Were you freelance? Were you employed? Were you doing both? Talk to us about that time.
Sure. So, my main source of income was working full time as part of a marketing team at a larger company. And so I was full time doing that. And then when COVID hit, after a couple weeks, basically the whole production, basically the office was like a skeleton crew. Um, Things were very uncertain, so they actually eliminated my position in the marketing team. They had to slim down to keep the budgets under control. So yeah, I got laid off from that, and that was a big change. Um, and it kind of forced me to start thinking more about freelancing. So I had done some projects, maybe only 2 or 3 a year up until then, like a wedding or, something for local government, something like that. But after that, it really kind of forced me to think about the potential of freelance more. Um,
And sorry, did you say that the reason for eliminating your title there in the marketing team was it because the company took a hit because of COVID, like clientele wise?
yeah, so, their product, it requires, like, an installation team and sales reps, and basically sales reps couldn't get those in-person meetings with the people, and the installation crew wasn't allowed to go on site. So the
Mm,
whole thing kinda ground to a halt.
yeah.
And so marketing budget was one of the first things that they had to look at, and as well as laying off all their installers and stuff like that, or at least
Mm,
putting them on a leave. Um, so that company was not able to be as agile, and it relied a lot on in-person interactions and physical things. And
mm,
actually, an interesting thing is the next company that I did some contract work for, um, they actually pivoted really well when COVID hit. So they they take like they go to local schools in BC, and they take photos of students and photos and videos of the grad ceremony, for example. And so when COVID hit, at first they thought, oh, we're not going to be able to do anything. But then they came up with a plan to have it all socially distanced and following the provincial health guidelines. And they were actually like one of the first companies to do that in their industry. So they ended up like tripling their clientele base.
oh wow.
So that was why they hired me and other videographers. Was they weren't really prepared for that kind of scale. So
Mm,
there was some growing pains learning how long things take to edit, like a giant grad ceremony where you can only have 15 kids crossing the stage every half hour, and then you've got a grad class of like 2 or 300. Some of these schools, it's a multi-day process with lots of sanitization stuff happening in between. um, so that was actually a really cool experience for me, seeing how some a company can really adapt to COVID and turn it into an advantage, a competitive advantage, and to increase their clientele base. So that was kind of how I saw two different companies handling it. One wasn't able to adapt, and they had to, massive layoffs and everything. And this other company actually was able to hire more staff and take on more clients and really kind of build up their business as a result of this crazy thing that's happened.
Hmm. So
So
there was an opportunity, and yeah, they capitalized on it, but they weren't ready for it. But they took it and they adapted, like you said. So that's a very interesting aspect of this pandemic, because I think that applies to freelance too. Like there's
yeah.
videographers that I personally know that said they've lost their recurring clients, or their clients are putting everything on hold. And because of that, they go on like a break, waiting out the pandemic and saying no to projects to stay on government, incentives to stay home.
Hmm.
And I've had a few clients reach out to me saying nobody else wants to take on a project. But I'll get more into that when I take my turn answering that question. I just want to let you wrap it up. I just wanted to interject there because that's a really interesting aspect, and that's why we decided to talk about the COVID impact. Because it's not as simple as everyone stay home, no business. It's like, oh, are there any opportunities? What has our experience been? So,
Hmm.
so this was a contract subcontractor position, like a freelancer position with these grad photos and
Hmm.
videos. Hmm.
Yeah. So I guess that would technically be freelancing, but there was a couple months in there where it was very like full time, can't really devote your time to anything else.
Hmm.
Very time intensive stuff. So that was a great place also to meet other talented videographers in the area, and I made some great networking connections there.
Hmm.
And that turned into a few other opportunities with me freelancing, and it really kind of drove home the importance of networking for me. You know,
Hmm.
you can really get a sense of the quality of somebody when you're working alongside them. You can think, oh, this is someone who I want to work with more, or
Hmm.
learning different tips and tricks. Um,
Hmm.
so things that you can't just see by looking at someone's video, but by actually working with them. Um, so
Hmm.
yeah, that was a really valuable experience of mine during COVID as well. Was being able to be among other professional videographers working on similar projects and picking up tips and tricks and building relationships, which at
Hmm.
the end of the day, I'm sure you can agree is one of the most important things when it comes to doing business.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Would you say that seeing other videographers and being on the same project with them, but for like such a short time, and with tight deadlines, I imagine, did you feel intimidated or motivated, or did you feel that you were encouraged by, like, yeah, there's other professionals, we're all doing a professional job, I'm doing my part, keeping up. How did you feel?
I'd say I felt motivated to make sure I stood out among everybody, because I knew the people hiring us were looking for the best talent and for future projects. Um, so there was definitely some times where I was maybe a little bit intimidated by the resume and like the websites and the clients that some of these guys had worked with.
Hmm.
But it kind of really also solidified my confidence when we were working with certain cameras, and I was the one to notice these things and like anticipate these problems before they happened.
Okay.
And then it kind of like took away the imposter syndrome that can sometimes creep in, and I was like, no, I should be here. I'm the one catching these mistakes before they happen and saving these hours in the editing room, on the fly.
That's awesome,
So
Nate.
yeah,
That's
it was
that.
fun.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess let me talk about how I was before COVID and when COVID hit. So when COVID before COVID hit, I had just accomplished 2 years of full-time freelance, and stuff was starting to ramp up. At this point, I think I had 3 recurring clients, which as a full-time freelancer, that's where you want to be. You want to have as many recurring projects from the same client. When but that was not the majority of my income. So still
Mm,
struggling, I guess you could say. But struggling, I think would be more appropriate if I didn't have enough work. I had enough work to make ends meet. I just didn't have enough stability and consistent. Like I know what's going to happen in 2 months from now because I have stuff scheduled. That's another
mm.
way to look at it. So I didn't have that yet, or I did, but with too few clients. When COVID hit, I lost those recurring clients. They closed shop. One of them was flying in from Toronto to have conventions twice a year in Vancouver. That's not happening anymore.
Mm.
Or as long as restrictions are here, or who knows? Who knows what's going to happen post COVID? Are clients going to opt for not traveling to other provinces? I don't know. I know that was on occasion, like besides my recurring client, there were other clients that were doing that, but they were like one time. Um, but instead, now it's been a year of COVID. Yay, anniversary. And it seems that I do have one new recurring client and possibly two more. It's still in the works as of this podcast, but yeah, just like you said, that other company was doing, gotta adapt, gotta see what like some clients are restricting their budget and halting video. Other clients or other companies realize, oh, we need to use video to reach out to people because people are not coming in to see us anymore, or they're not seeing our advertisements in these places because these places are closed now.
Mm.
Um, so it's I don't have a secret formula to tell you how to reach these people. Um, One thing I have tried to pivot into doing right before COVID is I started offering live streaming services, and got a few clients with that pre-COVID. Post-COVID, I had a few inquiries, but they were really low-paying clients. Like one of them was a bunch of parents that couldn't get into an arena to see their kids' hockey game. So they're like, okay, all of us are going to pitch in and get some videographer to live stream it. And it almost worked out, but it turns out that the stadium or the rink, wherever they were, had like a webcam that was like not zooming in, not manned, probably horrible audio, and they
Mm.
decided to cheap out and just go with that. So I'm
Uh,
hoping they'll hate that quality, and especially on a webcam, I don't know how you can see the puck. Like anyway, the puck's really hard to see in a zoomed in shot.
uh,
So my experience has been up and down. COVID made me lose clients and my recurring clients, and a lot of projects that were about to happen got canceled or postponed. So last year I ended up staying home for 5 months of that year. So that's
mm.
not fun. But I had a lot of time for, tweaking stuff with my business or my work life balance. But I'll talk about that when we get there.
Yeah, sure. How have you found weddings or events? Because I actually filmed a wedding during COVID, but it was obviously
Hmm.
very small and scaled back compared to what they wanted.
Yeah, weddings. Wedding is not my main thing. So again, I'm not, because I didn't focus on that. I'm not like, oh, I had 10 weddings booked next year and they canceled on me. Instead, like conferences and events and in-person stuff, yeah, that was scheduled and that got canceled. Weddings, from what I heard from other videographers that do weddings, got completely destroyed. Like some videographers, the niche one, the wedding, like that's the only thing they do. Their typical year looks like wedding season 6 months, vacation 6 months. That's if they're like really well off. The ones that are not well
Mm.
off, go and get employment for 6 months.
Hmm.
Um, at least from the couple that I know. And obviously, when your whole industry gets shut down, and depending on what terms in your contract you have to give refunds. That really screwed over a lot of wedding videographers, and the ones that were not well established had to shut down shop. So another issue with the wedding industry, from what I've heard talking to these people, is because attendance is restricted to at one point it was 50, now it's 10 people. You don't get as many people and as many gifts, and it's just not as profitable of an event for the bride and groom. So they're not willing to spend that much money on video. I was actually looking today on some Facebook groups with videographers, and the wedding guys were saying that uh, they can't get the $5,000 brides anymore. Those
Hmm.
they're only getting brides that are like, can you do it for $800?
Hmm.
Which again, in COVID, when you have nothing, is better than nothing. But if you compare it to pre-COVID, it's like, I can't make a living off of this. Well, what do you do? So for me, right now, I had a wedding cancel on me today because restrictions got extended, and these people wanted 30 guests, and the restrictions imposed 10. And they just emailed me today saying, yeah, we're not doing it this year. And
Hmm.
we don't know how or if we're still gonna need video next year. So if we need you, we'll contact you next year. Okay,
Yeah.
bye bye. Yeah,
Lots of pivoting for
yeah,
people, for businesses.
yeah, and a real stress test. It's really testing people's nerves. Like if you can't deal with this insecurity and instability, and the fact that you have to switch up your game. Like, oh, I've only done wedding stuff. Now I have to find side gigs to survive. Try doing corporate stuff, and I have a corporate client that I'm filming a educational series for next Saturday, and he told me the reason why he chose me was because a couple of the other videographers that showed up on the first page of Google were wedding specialists. And he's like, I don't want a wedding specialist. I want a corporate
Hmm.
specialist. And that's why he chose me based off of what he saw on my website. So it's nothing's easy. And some people might just go into getting just a full time job to wait out the pandemic because a lot of companies are hiring for work from home, like remotely in our industry. So that is a huge plus as a possibility. If freelance is not working, but you want to get a full-time job, companies now are more open to the idea of letting you work from home
Hmm.
for them.
Definitely. You just gotta fight all those people like me who got laid off due to COVID and now are looking for their next full-time position.
Yeah, so there's more
So,
opportunity, but there's also a lot of desperate, like even more experienced people might be desperate enough to compromise on the salary just to get stability during this time. So it's like
so Darn, it's sounding like it's quite a mixed bag, but would you say that now is a bad time to just begin being a freelance videographer?
um I'm gonna say mostly that now is a good time. It depends on your specific situation,
Hmm.
but I think a lot of companies, from what I've networked and trying to find clients and talking with other videographers and how they deal with clients during this pandemic, a lot of companies now need video. Some of them are not prepared to spend money because you know, in-person stuff is worked. If you want to begin freelance work and you need to build up a portfolio, now is actually a great time. You can offer a free video for someone, um, and start building up experience now. Because if again, if your circumstances are that you have extra time now, because either you're working from home or you can't work because of COVID, that means you have extra time. If you're not going into the office and you're staying home, that means you have like what 1 to 2 extra hours of not being in transit. You can go and do a video for a business or for one of these desperate wedding couples that just wants to have a wedding but can't afford it, an expensive video anymore. So me personally, if I was employed and got laid off because of COVID and had trouble finding employment, I would seriously look into full time free, or not full time, but like beginning to explore freelance as a possibility. Yeah.
Hmm.
What's your opinion on this?
Well, I'm kind of walking that road right now.
Mm.
I've been looking for these full-time jobs, but there's been so much competition. Like some of these sites, you can see how many people have applied. It's like a couple hours after the job posting is like 100 plus
Oh
applications.
my.
And I'm already like, oh, okay, so my chances are like zero. So that's been kind of a realization that I've been having is maybe I need to be pivoting more to full-time freelance like you. Um,
Well, do you agree with the premise that now is a good time for opportunity to do that?
yes, I'd say it is a good time for opportunities because, like you say, some companies are now doubling down on video because the lack of in-person communication is happening. So, like you kind of said, depending on what niche you're looking in, it
Mhm.
can be full of opportunity. Um, yeah, a lot of different places that didn't need video now require it or have a much stronger use case for it.
Mm.
So yeah, I would say now would be a good time to begin doing freelance video, either shadowing others or reaching out to whatever small network you may have, build up a portfolio, and then just keep in mind all the COVID safety procedures, and that can even be a selling point for those who are, being cautious, don't want to get fined, don't want to get sick. So yeah, you can turn it into an advantage, like that company I worked for last year.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So in what you described as this is kind of the path you're walking down now, how have you found trying to do freelance? Have you had clients during the pandemic?
yeah, yeah. I've done some work with existing like past clients, doing some more work for them. And then, yeah, I've found new clients through networking with other videographers, doing some contract work for them. And then also just finding my own clients through online ads and just sometimes just cold messaging some people who I want to work with. Um,
Ooh,
yeah,
got to talk about that on one of the episodes.
yeah,
So that's something
definitely.
I have not done, and I'm curious to hear what your experience is with that. So okay, so and seeing that during a pandemic, you are able to find clients, and you're just starting out. Like, would you say you have a strong online presence or
No,
or a strong
no.
network? No. So despite that, you're having more than just like one client. You're having several. Would you say that's a good sign?
Yeah, like I only want to go up from here, build more relationships,
Hmm.
uh, build up client base, and yeah, really enjoy the people I'm working with.
Like, is it I guess I'll ask the same question I asked at the the grad stuff. Being in this position now with like okay, having to deal with different clients, different requirements, different creative styles. Have you felt intimidated or have you felt in your element? Did you feel like this is something that if you would do full time would be more enjoyable than being in the same office doing the same projects over and over again?
Okay, I see what you're saying.
That might be a loaded question, and that might be too personal to ask. So feel free to answer it if you want.
Well, I'd say there's pros and cons.
Yeah.
I like I'm a pretty risk averse person, so I liked having that steady, 9 to 5 job that I could
Sorry,
rely on.
I'm ESL. Risk averse means like you would avoid risky situations.
Yeah,
Okay.
like I'd rather take the guaranteed, you know, steady, dependable paycheck than like feast or famine, where it's like, oh, nice, I had this huge client, and then it's like, oh, I can't find clients anywhere for the next few months.
Yeah,
So,
that's my
I
parents.
so my personality is just I want that steady, dependable drip of income instead of always having to search for the next client, and I don't know how much it's going to be.
Hmm.
So I was pretty comfortable with the full-time position, and the fact that it comes with health benefits, and when
Vacation.
it's the right employer, yeah, you get vacation, some
Sorry,
sick
I
days.
should say paid vacation. Because you can take a
Yeah.
vacation. I took 5 months vacation last year.
Yeah. So uh that I appreciated that. And then
Hmm.
yeah, and it helps with the family knowing when I'll be home, when I'm gonna leave in the morning. So yeah, I may be gone most of the day, but the fact that it's a known quantity and
Hmm.
it's kind of the same, we can adjust our routine to that.
Hmm.
So that was a big shift for me.
And work doesn't follow you home.
Yeah, you can leave your work at work.
Yeah,
That's a nice bonus.
5
You know.
p.m. done. Gonna enjoy free time now. Whereas with freelance, like I really gotta get this edit done, so I'm gonna spend the night doing it because tomorrow I have to film because I'm overbooked. Well, that's a good scenario, but let's say like I have to
Mhm.
go somewhere and do something else. I have to finish this edit.
Yeah. So I've been kind of adapting to the work from home lifestyle, and it's nice not to have to spend so much on gas going to and from work.
Hmm.
That's nice. I don't have to worry about traffic. Like obviously, if you're going out to film, then that's different. But like, it's not the same every day where you're on the same schedule as everyone else out on the road. Um, so I've appreciated that. Um, and also the variety of projects that you end up filming and editing. It kind of keeps your skills fresh, and it's
Hmm.
nice working on different things instead of the same, always for the same company, the same brand guidelines that you may or may
Hmm.
not think need improving. Um,
That's like
yeah.
that's like one of two ways. Because I know some full-time videographers, like I said, like for example, the wedding guys, they don't want to touch corporate, they don't want to touch dance, they don't want to touch
Hmm.
whatever promo videos, wedding, and that's it. I know a corporate guy that only wants corporate. He doesn't want to do any creative stuff. But I'm like you. I agree with that sentiment. I like diversity or variety of projects. It is a challenge, and unless you're really creative or really on the ball with okay, I have to film this differently. I have to frame this differently. I have to light this differently because it's not a documentary, it's an interview for a corporate client, so it has to look brighter and not darker and grittier like a documentary, for example, right?
Hmm.
Um, so I do feel you there, Nate. I agree with that.
Hmm.
Um, I guess how about this? Where does Nate see himself in a post-COVID world? So either COVID, the infections go down, or the vaccine's effective, or whatever happens, and things go back to normal, let's say, or things pick up again from a business point of view. Um,
Hmm.
so I understand the pros and cons of freelance, but let's say you would have a few recurring clients and you would have enough stability to do freelance, but let's say the pay wouldn't be that much better than your full-time job. Where would Nate be in a post-COVID world if he had those two options?
That's so tough.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Welcome to the podcast.
Doran, you've done it again.
Content, Nate, give us content.
Ah, I
Again,
think I would still,
if you don't want to answer, you don't have to. I'm just picking your brain here.
yeah, I think I would still lean towards the freelance side of things
Hmm.
instead of the steady job because I'd love to be able to be home more with my family. You know, we've got kids, and I'd like to see them grow up, and it's great working from home. Then I can just duck out when I'm editing, and we can go for a walk or whatever, stuff
Hmm.
like that. You have to
True.
schedule weeks or months in advance. There's no spontaneity when you're working for a company full time like that.
Hmm.
Um, so with all the niceties of having that full-time job and that stability, if I had those repeat clients that I enjoyed working with doing freelance, that gives me more room to grow my business, and it also gives me the flexibility to have more of that free time at
Hmm.
home while the kids are still young, which they are. Like they're not old enough to go into school yet, so they're at home all the time.
Hmm. Right. I think you brought up a very interesting point because with a job, everything's pretty finite in terms of growth, like both financially and like time investment's always going to be the same, or time requirement, I should say. But with freelance, if you get to that point and you're comfortable that year, like you said previously, like you expect, like it might dip down, but if you do everything right and the market is not tossed for a loop because of some natural disaster, um, you expect to grow, right?
Mm,
So I think, would you short term, like, does full time freelance appeal to you, despite knowing the term might be kind of hard? Would you do it for the future benefits? Let's say 3 years from now, easy money. Guess what? You can take a month vacation, and you can afford an exotic vacation because of
mm,
the effort you've put in 3 years. Does that
mm.
seem like something that would you do, or like you said, being a risk averse or
Yeah.
averse, risk averse? Would you
No, risk averse. You had it right.
risk averse? Is that like with a dash or one word
Yeah,
or what?
it's like when you have an aversion to something,
Yeah.
that means like you want to avoid it. So
Does it
averse is like a shortening of aversion.
right? But is risk averse? Oh, they're just two different words.
Yeah, risk
Oh,
dash averse.
oh, so it is with the dash. Neat. We new
Were you thinking it was
segment.
like universe, risk averse?
I don't know, man. ESL, English Second Language, and guess
uh,
what? We have a new segment on the show. So much for Romanian word of the week. Now I'm learning English words. Thank you, Nate.
yeah, there you go.
Full circle.
Risk averse.
Risk averse.
Yeah. So what were we talking about?
I don't know.
Something about if
I was
would I endure
asking,
the short term?
yeah, like would a 2 or 3 year kind of struggle be worth it for you to have a potential like better work-life balance, more ideal
Hmm.
work-life balance, and financially,
Yeah.
hopefully. This is maybe a topic that we should have left for the us talking about pros and cons of being employed versus freelance, but we can briefly touch on it here.
Well, this my plan was not to go freelance at this time. That was a plan I was thinking more 5 to 10 years down the road. I would
Wow.
start to do that once the kids are older and in school.
And they can pick up a
Um,
camera and be a second camera op.
yeah, or
Child
if
labor, Nate, no.
if my wife didn't have to be such like an involved stay-at-home mom,
Mhm.
for example, she might be able to help me out.
All right.
So this whole COVID shuffling of my life has kind of forced me to take these steps earlier than I would have wanted to. So,
So you took it more out of necessity. You had to explore this because the alternatives were I can't find a full-time job in my industry. Can I do freelance in my industry? Because if not, the alternative is do something outside of your industry, which is not going to be as fun and it's not going to pay as good. because it's not something you
Yeah,
have training for.
I don't have education for anything else right now. Yeah, it'd be like going back to school for a trade or something that would pay more.
Who has the money for
Or
school?
yeah, so it's kind of it was the plan, but now it's getting like fast tracked. It's like, okay, now's the time to figure it out because
Mm,
full time is just not proving viable.
yeah, yeah. Well, you know what's best for your family, but I do encourage you, and hopefully with this conversation, you do understand that there might be opportunities, and you won't know if you don't explore it, right? So, like those two,
Mhm.
three clients that you've had during COVID, if you didn't try to look for clients or you didn't have a website set up saying you're offering video services, you would have never known, right? And
Mhm.
look what you found out. You found out that, ooh, I like working on different projects. That's something I like.
Definitely.
Um,
Yeah, I'm along for the ride. I'm gonna try as hard as I can, work as smart as I can,
mhm.
and yeah, just try and use the network that I've made, help other people out
Mm.
when I can, and yeah, just see how it goes.
Okay, last question on this topic. Sorry for picking your brain so much, but I'm fascinated to know how other people are like viewing their future in an uncertain time. I don't know, I find it fascinating. So you can
Hmm.
reflect the questions back at me anytime. But like again, where do you see yourself post COVID? I want you to give me two answers. One is best case scenario, like ideal scenario. Like let's say a year from now, everything goes back to normal. What is the best case scenario for you? And then give me like a realistic expectation scenario. I don't know if you can differentiate between the two. Actually, you could, because the realistic one would be factoring in your fears and acknowledging risks and conceding to them, I guess. And also, it's not just about you; it's about industry. Like you might dedicate and do everything right, and the industry is just not demanding video, right? So, like, what's your ideal post COVID scenario, and what's your like, what are you expecting to happen? I guess.
Okay. Well, my ideal situation would be everything like explodes. I've got tons of recurring clients. They're all great to work with. I've got more work than I can possibly do by myself, and I have to start subcontracting or referring others. I think that would be my goal, or add more people to my team and turn basically into a production company. Um,
So
that
your
would be
your ideal scenario would be full-time freelance with lots of clients, or would it be like get a dream job that pays like and gives perks, and how would you weigh those two? Because I think here you would have to include your family/work life balance.
yeah. Well, like I said, freelance kind of was the goal, but just further down the line. So if I could get there quicker without having to put in as many years and everything was just accelerated, I think me and my family would be able to endure that shorter struggle time, like you say,
Mhm.
and reap the benefits of the flexibility that you can have once you're an established full-time freelancer. And you can really pick and choose what clients to work with and when to work with them too.
So if a full-time job or recurring freelance business was paying the same amount and it was sufficient to have your lifestyle,
Hmm.
and save money. Let's say freelance would be your go-to simply because of you're prioritizing your family at that point,
Yeah.
time with them.
Yeah. The flexibility with the family,
Mm,
not having to set aside 3 weeks in August is the only time you can have a vacation. Like, sure, some companies have perks and a few sick
mm,
days, but overall the structure of them right now, of all the ones that I've worked with, are very limited in their flexibility compared to freelance.
mm.
Naturally.
And what do you expect is going to happen?
Well, I expect my freelancing to slowly keep growing, and honestly, who knows? Like I'm excited and I am optimistic about the future. So to try and be realistic is hard. But obviously I'm gonna keep striving to that point where I have so much work and great clients that I don't know what to do with them all. I can't handle it all myself.
Hmm.
And that would be the point where I can either start picking and choosing who I work with, or subcontract that out to other people. So I have again more time with the family, which is definitely my priority.
Okay. I'm sorry I lied earlier. I didn't lie. I just changed my mind. I'm gonna throw a curveball
Dorin,
question at you. Have you considered do getting a part-time job to have that bit of consistent income and doing freelance in the, like, let's say you're working like part-time like 3 days a week and the other 4 days you can do for freelance. Have you thought about that?
sure, if the right job was there, yeah.
Hmm.
If I could see it either
Hmm.
leading to more networking opportunities or something that I enjoyed doing, a team I enjoyed working with,
Hmm.
sure, I would definitely consider that. But
Hmm.
no, I'm not interested in just any part-time job in any industry
No, no,
just
no.
to
I was
have
talking
it.
about
Yeah.
video. Like, let's say a
Yeah.
company needs video, but it's not enough work that it's a full-time job, but it's not minimum amount of work that it's a contract basis either. Like, oh, we only
Mm.
need you once a month. Like, no, we need you 3 times a week, but not 5 times a week.
Yeah,
It
I
was,
would consider it for
yeah.
it would be depending on the person and the company and
Hmm. Hmm.
the team.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Enough of my question. What do you want to ask me, Nate? Here, I'll give you a few.
Well, sure, Darn. What about you? Would you consider a part-time position to supplement your freelance if things die down or things get more canceled?
At the start, I was, let's just use a polite way and say I was encouraged by parents to not do full time freelance, instead get a 9 to 5 job to have that steady income and
Hmm.
do freelance on the side and wait for it to pick up. Deep down inside, and don't get me wrong, my personality is um, not necessarily the financial security, but comfort. Like, I was so comfortable just having an office job. Everyone
Mm.
has, like, somebody else has to do all the responsibilities. I just have to do my task and I'm done. That was my comfort zone.
Hmm.
And I gave that up um, for family work life balance. I wanted to be home more. We were planning to have a kid. We had two in the meantime, and I got to tell you, freelance has definitely been worth it, even if I made a bit less than what I was doing in my
Mm.
office job. The bill still got paid. I still can buy a new thing if some old thing breaks. And I get to see my kids when they wake up, when they eat, when they, it's like you said, it's like I'm there for the little moments.
Hmm.
And also, like, I don't want to make other parents feel bad, but you connect and you have a more developed relationship with your kid because you're spending that extra time, or the fact that they see you more often than they see you late at night and you're tired and it's like you don't have as many memories. But maybe I'm just exaggerating, but that's how I feel it, at least. Because
Hmm.
I saw that with my wife, because I was home more when my wife went back to work when our little one was 1 year old, and the 1 year old, attached to me a whole lot more because I was spending the most of the day with her. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah. But what was your question?
Would you take that same question you asked me? Like, would you
Oh, the
take a
part time.
part-time?
At the beginning, right. So at the beginning, I knew that if I took a full time job, I would not have time to invest in my freelance work unless I did weekend stuff, which would be sacrificing family time. Um, Also, what projects are in the weekend? Mostly weddings or birthdays or something, like not the corporate stuff and not not
Hmm.
not the serious stuff that I wanted to get into. So I tried to do the middle ground that I suggested to you now. I tried to find a part-time job in my industry. There were not that many when I started. Most of them were either full time or just contract. I didn't manage to find a company that was needing someone just part time. Um, However, in the last 3 years, I have seen a few of them, but it's like a once a year type of thing. Like, it's not that popular. With COVID now, maybe. I haven't looked into the job market, so I'm not 100% sure what it's at now, but I would assume pandemic increased companies needing um, a part-time videographer. So I did try it, and I would have taken it. Like that would have been my limit. I would have not worked more than 3 days a week for um, for someone because I needed the
Mm.
couple other days. And even then, I knew, okay, if I'm working Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and I get a client and he needs me the Tuesday,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, I have to take a sick day or I have to take a day off, or the ideal employer would give me flexibility, like, yeah, yeah, you can come Thursday in the office. But like I said, I didn't find that. I tried and I would have done it, but I didn't find it. So
Hmm.
I stuck with full time freelance, and um, yeah, looking back now, 3 years later, I like where I got to, and if it wasn't for COVID, I know I would have been where I ideally wanted to be. But COVID snatched
Mm.
that away from me or postponed it. I'm gonna say, yeah, how's that for an answer?
Whew. Yeah, that's I think that kind of sums up our.
If I was in your shoes, I would do exactly what you said. So I'm in complete agreement with you.
Oh, I thank you, kind sir.
Yeah.
Cool. So we
Um.
did Doran's English word of the week.
I,
What should be my Romanian word of the week?
um. I tried to think of camera or video related stuff, but so many of them are like international words or just words that are just borrowed from English, like
Mm.
camera, film, video is just a different inflection or a different accent.
Yeah.
Um, Let me see if I can think of a good one. Like everything sounds like half English. Like if I tell you cablu, what do you think that is?
Cable.
Yeah,
Yeah. Cablu.
cablu. Yeah. So
Why don't you say something from the kitchen? Because that might have something different.
kitchen. Oh, man. Okay. Um, Suk.
Sook.
SUC. Yeah,
No,
suk. What do you think that is?
sook. I don't know. Soup?
No.
Spoon?
You get no.
Okay, then I have no clue.
No, third one's your last one. Try. It
Spatula?
no. It's like soda.
Soda, like pop.
Pop soda, yeah. Suk.
So if you had like a can of Diet Coke, sook.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So any
Or
sort of carbonated,
yeah,
uh,
but even
not
non-carbonated
soda.
stuff like apple juice, you would say suk de mere.
Oh,
Yeah. Because it
oh, okay,
means it literally means juice, kind of like
okay.
succulent, suk. The
So it could be carbonated or not. Huh.
yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
Okay. Sook.
yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. English has that differentiation between a juice and a pop.
Yeah.
Romanian doesn't, or at least I'm
Mm.
uncultured swine and I don't know it.
Well, you've been in Canada, what, half your life now, right?
Almost. Wait. Yeah, no, almost. This summer. Yeah.
Whew, nice.
Ooh. Yeah. That'll be a special podcast. We'll celebrate, mate. We'll have like Canadian theme, and I'll do like a ooh, yeah. I'll
Paint
do
half your face.
no, I'll just like key out
Ah,
the blue and do like half Romanian, half Canadian. So
nice.
yeah. I guess let me answer reflect a question back to myself. Where do I see myself post COVID? You curious to know?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your
Um
plan?
like okay, idealistically and realistically. Idealistically, uh post COVID, like you said, stuff is gonna explode, and my my recurring clients that gave up on video are gonna come crying back, and they're gonna be like, "We're gonna pay you double. Just take us back, daddy."
Yeah.
um, and ideally, I'll make 100K that year. That is my ideal scenario. That is where I am very content and cannot ask for anything more in my life, business
Mm,
wise. What do I expect to happen? And I'll say, what do I expect optimistically? Because I'm very pessimistic on how governments and people are reacting to COVID. So I'm quite disappointed in that regard. But assuming people don't panic and don't freak out and want to resume normality and are not intimidated by COVID to the point where they still don't want to have contact with people, even though, like, hey, it's okay, we fixed it, it's okay now, the spread's gone, the cure or the vaccinations here. Some people, I think, will still be actually, I know employees, they're hoping that employers are going to let them work from home, even if it's okay to come back to the office. So there's like pros and cons, and some people are wishing for the
mm,
trauma from a business mentality point of view, but from a client point of view,
hmm
I hope that doesn't happen. But being optimistic and realistic, I expect things to just pick back up where they were, and maybe I'll get to that 100K in 2 to 3 years, looking
mm,
at my steady growth. So without a
right.
boom in video, if the pandemic ends and things don't boom and they just resume how they were, or they're a bit down because of economic collapse, that's like I still expect to survive and not have to go work construction or get a full-time job in video. That would be my pessimistic scenario. But my realistic scenario is I'll survive, and it will be a couple of years. I'll get where I want to be with the economy recovering.
Mm-hmm.
Realistically, that's where I see myself. Yeah.
I hope it's like your first scenario where it's like the Great Gatsby and everybody's throwing these extravagant parties and just tossing out money here and there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like a great dream.
What cheap clients would want. Just give me free videos. Like, no, just give me, just overpay me. That's what. When is it my turn? Oh man, yeah. I guess I haven't like I talked a bit about work-life balance, but definitely the perks of freelance are choosing your clients, choosing your work time, your work schedule, aligning that with, okay, it's time to go outside and go to the park, or it's time to go shopping. I don't have to wait for Saturday morning to go shopping. I can go shopping Wednesday morning if I want to. So
Hmm
a lot of perks, and that's what me and my wife decided to prioritize. So even if freelance was not as financially stable, if we could do it for long enough to be here, like for me to be here for her and the kids in the first couple of years when it's the hardest, it's worth it for us.
hmm
So that is, in a nutshell, my family work-life balance. I have to say though, after doing freelance for 3 years, going back to a full-time job would be devastating for my self-esteem and for my mental well-being. Even if it
Oh
would be the
man.
best working place ever, I don't know if I could ever do it. I mean,
Mm,
out of necessity, I would, but I would not be content. I would
mm,
pursue freelance as hard as I could.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've had a taste of the freelance life, and now
Mm-hmm.
you want to hold on to it.
Oh, like I said, the family work-life balance. I've not tasted financial success above what my office job was giving me, but I've come really close to it last year. That's actually a fascinating thing. Last year, having 5 months of staying at home, I actually had my best year.
Mm. Yeah, that really
If you take
speaks to.
out those 5 months with what government gave me, which is below half of my average in the other 7 months. So what I did in 7 months, I did in a full year the previous year. So if you just extrapolate that, I would have made 50% more last year
Yeah.
if it wasn't for COVID. So that's why I'm like, if things just pick back
Mm,
up, I that's the trend I'm going with. And I'm
Yeah.
basing that not off of randomness or off of a magic formula like, oh, this year's is gonna go like I know years go up and down, months go up and down for me, client wise, but based on how I'm getting my clients and what budgets I'm talking to now in my third year compared to my second year and my first year, that's what I'm basing this off of.
Right.
I'm getting the bigger clients with the bigger budgets, um, and they're contacting me instead of me looking for them.
Hmm.
But the details of that are for another time. So it looks like we have like 4 more minutes left. Any last question?
Ah, I'd say, what is the biggest pivot that you've done due to COVID? Like, what's been the biggest shift in your business, in your clients, or in everything? Because you were already working from home before COVID. What's been the biggest shift for you?
Um, hmm. Well, I mean, stress and coping with losing the recurring clients and sitting home for so long, I've managed to pivot my thinking into ignoring the uncertainty, like not recklessly ignoring, but not letting it get to me and just being optimistic and just waiting things out, spending that time into me, into my family. So that's been a personality pivot, definitely. Like a lot of people
Hmm.
are pretty dragged down by what's happening and very frightful of the future, or of the economy in the present, to be honest. But I when COVID happened, I made a lot of gear purchase, more expensive than I've done in the except for one thing. But like I bought a $4,000 lens during the pandemic, and that was because of a need that I saw in the previous 2 years, but that was picking up steam in the even during the pandemic. The one or two clients that I would get in those 5 months needed me to have a zoom lens, and I wanted to use my Sony. And as we discussed in the previous podcast, the Sony lenses were really expensive.
Yep.
But I decided to get it because I thought I was also going to pivot into photography, which I haven't done because the videos picked back up, and it's gone back to a decent level, but stuff is still getting canceled. But I don't know. So I was gonna pivot into photography, and I did get a flash, and I got a telephoto 70 to 200 f 2.8 because I was thinking I'm gonna do photography. So
Hmm.
I did prepare to pivot for photography. I'm not advertising for photography yet because I am doing okay with the video for now. But if
Hmm.
the video would crash, I would definitely pivot to photography, and I'm set up for that.
Hmm. Okay. So
Yeah.
it's like your preparation.
Yeah. So my
Yeah.
attitude with dealing with the pandemic is a pivot mentally, and I did pivot to photography, but not fully committed to it because there's no need yet. Hopefully, there won't be a need, but because photography is more easy money and less work, but it's not my passion. I like video,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, that
Cool.
was that was a lot of fun. Um, yeah, I guess we're both aiming to be optimistic, and I can't wait a year from now to look back on this video and say like, yeah, we were optimistic. That was great. And laugh about it like, yeah, those were hard times, but we knew the good times are coming.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one of two ways it could go.
Yeah, that's true. That's I mean one of three ways. You could not even have a reaction next year because you're not here, but that's not being optimistic, Nate. All right, I think that's should we wrap? I think that's good.
Yeah, that's everything I want to say.
Yeah, that's a wrap for today's podcast. Thank you, Nate. It was so much fun talking with you. I feel like with each episode, it's just getting more and more fun. So thank you very much for co-hosting this with me, Nate, and thank you, listener slash viewer, for listening slash watching. Please leave a comment or message us about what topics you would like us to discuss, and let us know what feedback you have. Do you like the podcast? What do you like most about it? Do you like English word of the week? Do you like Romanian word of the week? Should we both try to learn a new language? I don't know. You let us know.
Souk. Yeah, and be sure to subscribe to not miss an episode of the Nate and Doran podcast. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever you use to listen to podcasts. This has been Nate and Doran. Thank you for watching and listening.